Well, you heard all the election promises back when the campaign was going hot and heavy in 2016, and I knew that was largely a sales pitch because I'm quite familiar with the type of people that are in business, you know. Not to say I'm really against Trump or anything like that, and I would never vote for Hildebeest in a million years, but the point of this video is the swamp is never sleeping, and it's going to be a mechanism whereby what's coming up is a mechanism whereby the swamp is going to self-drain with a massive cataclysmic implosion. There's no doubt about it. And what's looming is, I keep looking, once in a while. I haven't actually looked at this debt clock probably more than a year. The last time I looked at it, it wasn't quite up to 20 trillion. Now it's 20.6 trillion, closing in on 21 trillion. So, the consensus is 24 trillion is the point of no return. And if you looked at this financial and you weren't figuring it was the US government, you'd say this company is kaput. It's done. Total debt per family, looking down here in the middle slightly towards the right in the red letters, $829,000 debt per family. Savings per average family, 4,800. With most people having a savings of zero, right? Plus, even they are in personal debt. So, you're talking the total debt, which is the U.S. debt per family, not even talking about personal debt, and they're not even talking about unfunded liabilities. I know this is all bad news, you all know it's garbage, but, this story about drain the swamp is a sales pitch. And I'm not criticizing the guy so much, and he could be 110% legit. He could be. But the deal is, it's like forget about it, man. I mean, even if, some things some people are saying, how come he doesn't do this? How come he doesn't do that? How come he doesn't release the 911 files, for example, or whatever, right? How come he doesn't release the alien UFO files, right, that George Bush and Obama will not even talk about in the least, which is probably, and that could probably explain a lot of garbage why the human race is being destroyed, left and right, with stuff going on in Europe with importation of peoples that wrecking the place. But let me put it to you this way. It's probably way beyond his control, and he'd be a dead man and his family be dead if he really was fighting as much. Say he really wanted to stop all this crap. I think he'd be dead, and I think it was smart that he released the JFK files, because that's kind of an insurance policy for him, in a way. Not a guaranteed insurance policy, because a lot of stuff that can come up that could be worse, and I don't even want to comment on it, because, it's like these guys in YouTube that review these videos, they're getting crazy with the little yellow icons, so I can't tell you too much. But basically, Trump is in over his head. I think the guy is pretty legit. But, for us to think we're going to elect this guy to send him to Washington, D.C. and give the power to the central power, that's another thing that aggravates the crap out of me. Because that's like fascism. When you got to think that the president's got to fix everything, that means you're shirking all your personal responsibilities and handing it over to a leader of a government, right? Which means you are a fascist just for thinking like that, which is a lot of the conservatives too. And the liberals are just as freaking myopic brained. Oh, everybody is, for crying out loud. I'm like real old school. Get rid of all this garbage. Kind of like the way California used to be in 1963 before it turned into a bunch of garbage, You can do anything you want over there. It's just California. Anyway, Trump's right now, he's probably thinking, should I stay or should I go? He's probably thinking this every day, even though he ain't saying it. I know they're trying to get rid of him, but the more they try to get rid of him, the more he's going to stay. But it's a self-fulfilled destiny, prophecy, or whatever the hell it is about this draining the swamp, because the debt clock is telling you it can't continue. There's no way. I don't know how much longer it's going to go. I mean, you can light all the candles of hope you want. It's BS. And you can, all the stuff that Trump's doing with tax cuts or whatever he's doing with economic policy, which I already know The stock market is at an all-time high. It's the most overbought market going. Not unrelated to the president. It doesn't have anything to do with him, for crying out loud. But it's heading for a crash. It's going to be worse than the crash in 1929. I remember back when I was commenting a couple years ago, it was the third most overbought. Then it was the second most, and the most was 1929. It's worse than that. We're going to have a slide backward that's going to make everything else look like nothing. And I think that's when you got your warning sign for global war. All the garbage they talk about in the conspiracy channels, but this is going to happen. It ain't going to happen until we have a worldwide global depression. Then you got to watch for wars, because that's when wars are about economics, man. It's about money. About money and resources. When there isn't enough to go around, people fight. And that's like that with everything. I mean, even when there's companies, for crying out loud, or individuals. Or, you got individuals in companies, for crying out loud. Now, when Trump is, this might be coming up during his administration, so you may be, we're going to probably have some really, different change in the White House maybe in 2020. And, it ain't going to matter. To me, I'd put this girl in the White House. You want a woman in the White House? The hell with Hillary. How about this girl? Right here. This woman right here. So what? She doesn't know anything. Who cares? Because it ain't going to matter. There's not going to be any money to spend, because the debt clock is telling us the whole thing is broke. It's done. It's finished. It's kaput. So all this stuff about drain the swamp. But there's one area of the swamp that's going strong. It's still the drug industry, which is actually feeding the black ops, the mercenaries, the deep underground military bases, and all the other stuff that's kind of off the books with the Pentagon. The $8 trillion that get lost, and Rumsfeld, and all the stuff they talked about in the past. But what gets me? People, they all talk about, oh, it's the end times and Jesus is going to come and save us all. It ain't going to happen. I don't think there's any savior, and I don't think you should go around and say you love Satan. But basically, people are putting their faith in something that's totally abstract instead of getting down to nuts and bolts. And one thing I want to tell you about nuts and bolts, where you can actually fix things, it sounds a little corny, but when Nancy Reagan said, just say no to drugs, that would be cutting off the deep state more than anything. Now, I'm not talking about your homegrown weed or the stuff you make locally. Whatever you want to do, and it's local, fine. I'm talking about the stuff that goes into the deep state's pockets. Just say to no to drugs is like saying you don't love Satan, okay? That's the way to really cut off the funding. But somehow, I don't understand why people, put their money down on these drugs. I mean, if you want to get high, why don't you just get your local stuff or whatever, get your own junk? I mean, I don't do any drugs, but I mean, why support the evil bastards on the top? Why are you doing that? I don't get it. That's their money. Nancy Reagan was right about that stuff. It sounds a little corny, just say no to drugs. I'm not even saying don't do drugs. I don't do drugs. I don't do any alcohol, even cigarettes or nothing. But, that's how you can cut them off. That would do more to drain the swamp than anything. Anything. Whether you voted for Bernie, whether, you liked Hillary, whether you like Trump, or whatever you liked, whatever. If you freaking stop giving the money to the deep state, that's the end of it. Like the Flamingo, the Gulf, the Tower Pizza, and Shell. And, Trump actually, it's interesting. I think Trump is a patriotic, good guy when it comes down to it. I know he's integrally all woven into the system. I mean, it's not going to, he's not a complete outsider. That's quite obvious. But he is a guy that loves America. And that's, what's one thing that there's certain people hate about him, like Soros hates about him. But, he can't, no matter what he does, it's not going to matter. It's like saying, you got a business, and the business is doing lousy for the last 30 years, and somehow it's staying alive because you got a source of funds that just keeps pumping money into you. That's That's like the U.S. government, right? So, maybe you do a little remodeling or something in the business, or you produce fancier financials, and maybe that type of stuff could help. But you're not really getting at the basic core problem is that you're you're upside down. In other words, whatever you're producing is costing you more than what you're selling it for, and that's really what's going on in the United States government. It's like it's too big. I mean, it's like us. It's like if you're a car manufacturer and you decided to sell cars for $5,000 a pop, and the whole car was made out of 316L stainless steel, and it had parts in it for engines that were like $10,000 blueprinted engines and stuff, and you're selling it for that kind of money. Well, I mean, even the government doesn't do something good like that, but you know what I mean. You're not gonna fix it. You're not gonna fix the problem. The government's upside down, man. It's gonna go down because of this, and it's amazing. Well, I don't know when it's gonna happen. That's the thing. I mean, people were bitching about this when it said 1 trillion. Okay, now it's 20. So since nothing happened just yet, nobody's like you know what the real deal is. The U.S. military can always freaking get the money back in. That's really what the deal is. But honestly, I think the swamp is something that. Well, let me put it to you this way: the politicians are expendable, all of them, even the ones that you think are entrenched liberals like Pelosi and Chucky Schumer and stuff. They're all expendable. I mean, when this crap goes down, and there's no longer, any funding for the U.S. government, all those people are going to be expendable. I don't know what's going to come in its place, but you can look at the guidestones and the Georgia guidestones. They kind of tell you what's coming up. I mean, that thing, even when I told you about with Deagle.com, which could be related to the Maunder minimum mini ice age coming in with food shortages and stuff, where they're talking like 54 million people projected to be the population of the United States in 2025. I don't know. I mean, I don't know, man. But I do know there's a lot of people on the grain dole, and the grain dole is broke. I mean, I don't see where this money's coming from. It's ridiculous. So, everybody hoorah, hoorah, hoorah with Trumpy, 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 and all this garbage. It ain't going to be there. On the other side of it is, too, I could tell you, I lean conservative, but I don't really think I'm a conservative. I'm more like a revolutionary. I'm kind of like a guy that was 1776 or 1861 in the South. The government's just, I don't even have respect for people that are. I guess I have more respect for these people than other government people, but even people that are retired and from the military and the police. I, a lot of these people, I don't know what the hell they even did. I mean, they play games. For crying out loud, they're in there, they work for the government, and their money's going to stop too. I think the only thing that would be essential services in the future, if we had a real problem with funding in the government, is going to be active duty law enforcement and military, the enforcement branch of, the executive branch. Everything else is going to be a bunch of garbage. That's everything, all of it, the whole 9 yards. But I don't think Trump. It's like I look at the numbers. I don't give a shit what somebody says. I mean, somebody could tell me, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do. I mean, Trump is not. I know he's a sales pitch guy. I'm not saying he's a bad guy. I know he's a sales pitch guy, though. He could talk. He could talk a good line and all that garbage. I know he was talking up. I know he was talking up a storm back in 2016. I'm not faulting him for it because they all do it. They do it in business. They do it in politics and everything else. But the thing is, he's not. And I'm not really criticizing him for this. But the reality is, the numbers tell you otherwise. The numbers are, this U.S. government corporation is cooked. It's done with a fork in it. The trends have not reversed. Like, if I look at this debt clock, and it said it wasn't going in more in debt like this, rolling, 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 I could say, okay, fine. Okay, it's up to 20 trillion, but it's slowed down a lot even, or it's stopped, or it's reversing, which would be best. Nope, not at all. Not in the least, man. So, considering I think it was in late 2016, I think it was about a year ago, this thing was just below 20 trillion. And I don't even know what the rate of acceleration is. I think it's actually going up faster and even faster and faster. I think around 2020 or 2021, this is going to be 24 trillion, which is supposedly the point of no return. They can't fix it, period. And at that time, I think we're going to have. I think Trump's not going to get reelected because of what's going to happen with the economy, which is not caused by him. But like I said, we got the most overbought freaking stock market all time history. Most overvalued. It's ridiculous. And it's not just us, it's global. So that's usually what changes in administration. When the economic forecasts all change, it ain't going to be his fault. That's just what's coming up. The people will elect some real screwed up idiot, worse than Hillary. I mean, I personally, if they got to vote for a woman, I'd put this woman in office. What the hell? I mean, that's the way I look at it. What the hell's the difference? I mean, it ain't gonna matter. It ain't gonna matter for nothing. So, and I don't want to say nothing really bad about Trump, but if somebody would give me the presidency, I would say, okay, I'd forego the salary too. I don't give a shit. Because I know there's other ways you're going to make money off just being a president than you will with that salary. It's a joke, I'm not saying that was an honorable thing for him to do, but, that's not where the politicians make their money. Go ask Maxine Walters, Waters, whatever her name is. Ask Nancy Pelosi. They make most of their money off of other deals and different things. Ask Hillary Clinton. You think she got all her money because she was Secretary of State or a senator? Nah. They don't make their money off the salaries. But honestly, you gotta have. I'd rather have I'd rather just throw a lottery out there and pick a random citizen to be as president than go through this bullshit election process and this dog and pony show they're throwing out there. But next time, I think it's all through. It's done. The swamp is finished. And the only way to swamp the deep state is going to keep surviving is off the drug industry mainly. And Nancy Reagan was right about that stuff. And I'm not saying I don't want to be the guy that I don't do it. I don't smoke any weed. I don't drink. I don't drink. I don't. But if you grow your own weed or something, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about giving money to some. I don't know, these street vendors that are getting it from, the drug cartels that are actually run by the deep state and funding all this evil crap. If you say no to all those drugs, their money's going to go down quick. That you could actually do more right there. Right there. But what happens with that garbage? Those type of people that sell the drugs like that are involved in the deep state, they don't get caught. It's like the person that has a couple potted plants with weed in it or something. That's the one that gets caught because they're not giving their money to the deep state. That's how that works, right? But that's why I don't really respect cops anymore because they're all part of that shit too. I mean, whether they play it or stupid to it or not, they're all part of it too. Everything in America is a racket. And the way you're going to freaking destroy it, the garbage is to not participate in it. It's another game I always looked at too. I never could figure out why people go to Vegas. I would never go to that damn place. I don't gamble. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I don't partake in a lot of these garbage that people do for entertainment. I don't watch the NFL for stupid football. You know, people bitching about the players taking a knee. I don't watch that garbage anyway. And Oprah Winfrey, I never watched her once. Never. She would never have been a billionaire if people like me out there. You know? So, if you're looking at why there's a swamp, it's actually, it's not necessarily the politicians. The end users is the American population. And the American population is actually feeding the swamp all the way by their own actions. So it goes right back to, honor, integrity, and, doing the right thing. That will actually do more to drain the swamp than it would to be electing somebody that you think might be able to drain the swamp. Although I think Donald would drain the swamp if you could just press a button and do it. You know, he really can't. He's going to do whatever he can, and he's smart enough. He's going to try not to step over that line where he's going to get whacked, which is the reality of the situation. But when you're looking at that debt clock, you can tell you right now, U.S. government is cooked. Cooked with a fork in it, and it ain't going to be that much longer. When I'm saying not that much longer, it might be 5 or 10 more years, but, within that time, you're going to see more of these shutdowns and all this garbage, not just because of what, the different things that Chucky Schumer's trying to get through, but there's going to be real shutdowns, lack of funds, and inflation. And look at what's going on with the dollar index. It's been dropping like a stone over the last year. Although it's still relatively high, the way it's trending, in a few years, the dollar could be way lower. So we're done. We're done.